to the program, Jake. It's great to have your first interview with us. So tell me, this is a big day for the president, and he's taken on some of these major issues. Tell me about how you think reviving the Iran nuclear deal is going to go. What's the choreography going to look like?
Well, Christian, the first and most important thing for us to communicate is that we believe diplomacy has to be part of the answer of solving the Iranian nuclear issue. And that means being prepared to sit down at the table with the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, plus Germany and Iran, to talk about how we get Iran back into compliance with the terms of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. So President Biden directed us to agree to the invitation by the European Union to join a meeting at a date to be determined, where we can begin those discussions. We're at an early stage here. It's going to take work. It's going to take hard-headed, clear-eyed diplomacy. And ultimately, it's going to take a decision by Iran that they are prepared to take the steps required to assure the world and to prove to the world that their program is for exclusively peaceful purposes.
Steps by Iran to do that, clearly, and steps by the United States to meet its obligations, because it's the U.S. which is in contravention and came out of that deal. And Iran is calling for sanctions to be lifted. Is there any mechanism for synchronicity? And obviously I'm asking you because you were there at the origin story. You were there at the beginning of the first Iran nuclear deal negotiations. And it was, if it's hard now, it was really hard back then. Do you see any diplomatic way to be able to, both of you, get back into compliance?
Well, what we have said repeatedly is that the United States is prepared to come back into compliance with its terms if Iran comes back into compliance with its terms under the deal. And frankly, Christian, one of our concerns right now is that Iran is presently threatening to move even further out of compliance, to refuse to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency in the work it's trying to do to ensure that nothing in Iran's program is being used for weapons purposes. So I think the first order of business here would be for the Iranians to take the decision to stop the process of moving further out of compliance. And then I do believe that there is a diplomatic pathway to getting to an ultimate agreement in which we can all have confidence that Iran's nuclear program has a lid on it, the kind of lid that was on it when we were actually all in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action together.
I spoke to the Iranian foreign minister. They say that they might reduce, but not kick out any IAEA inspectors. But of course, the IAEA is going there this weekend. Already we're hearing from them, or at least via media reports, that they may have discovered some undeclared Iranian sites, which haven't been used, they say, for the last 2 decades. Are we seeing a game of sort of hardball being played in advance of trying to get back? Are both sides? Because the German foreign minister said Iran was playing with fire yesterday. Can you describe what seems to be going on?
Look, from our side, it's pretty straightforward. President Biden has said throughout the campaign, and he said throughout the first month in his administration, that he's prepared to engage in diplomacy to solve this problem. He believes ultimately the best way to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is through the diplomatic path. And he criticized the previous administration for leaving the Iran nuclear deal because it's put us in a significantly worse position today than we were in when we were in the deal in the first place. We believe it is totally possible to come to a diplomatic solution. But our view is, let's get to the table, let's have this first meeting, let's have both sides talk directly to one another in the context of the P5+1, and let's take it from there. I'm not going to ascribe any particular motives to Iran at the moment in terms of why they're taking the decisions they're taking, but I do think that they should have to explain and answer for any step they take in the next week to reduce or curtail or refuse to cooperate with the IAEA.
I'm going to come back to Iran if I have a bit of time, but first I want